Now let's all read together the American's Creed. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed. A democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and indispensable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies everywhere, forever. Okay, now I'd like to read a writing from George Washington, who sounded a warning to all citizens of America that is as appropriate for us today as when it was made. The structure, meaning the Constitution of the United States, has been erected by the architects of commensurate skill and fidelity. Its foundations are solid, its compartments are beautiful, as well as useful. Its arrangements are full of wisdom and order, and its defenses are impregnable from without. It has been reared from immortality, if the work of men may aspire to such a title. It may nevertheless perish in an hour by the folly and corruption or negligence of its only keeper, the people. Republics are created by the virtue, public spirit, and intelligence of the citizens. They fall when the wise are banished from the public councils because they dare to be honest, and the profligates are rewarded because they flatter the people in order to betray them. That was writing of George Washington. Our message is not about the resuscitation of a dead Constitution or an about-to-die speaker. The Constitution still towers over the wrecks of our national life. Resurrection, not resuscitation, is our purpose. We are not fanatics. We are not extremists. We do not seek revolution or anarchy. We are those whose heartbeat is one with the soul of America, her Constitution. As a people, we need to ask, who are we? Who do we want to be? What kind of country do we want to leave to our children and future generations of Americans? Shall we let our Constitution and its essential principles be murdered by the powers of this world? We will tolerate tyranny. Will we tolerate tyranny merely to be comfortable? What does a free people do when confronted with a government that refuses to honor and may even systematically scheme to evade the boundaries and limitations established for it by the people? If the people fail to act, we will end a chapter in human history that began when people reigned sovereign, and the chains of a written constitution limited and bound their government to their service. We have no choice. You have no choice. More and more of us, with each waking day, have requested answers, but do not get them. We have tried to stop the wrongs taking place, but the violations continue. Now, we offer these instructions to our government to obey the Constitution, which, after all, is a strongly worded set of principles to govern the government, not the people.
That's right.
By the terms and provisions of the Constitution, the people have formed the government and enabled the government to act in certain ways. However, the people have also purposely and markedly restricted and prohibited the government from acting in certain other ways. Our government meddles in the internal affairs of foreign countries and applies our armed forces in constitutionally unauthorized hostilities overseas. This has resulted in a chain reaction of direct and indirect adverse effects on Americans. We are now on the brink of a meltdown of a monetary system based on the endless conjecture of debt. We have seen an enormous security system arise before our very eyes to protect us from the terrorists, if there are any. Yet, in doing so, our government is seizing our most fundamental rights and depriving us of their protections. We are losing our freedoms. To finance all of these schemes, the Internal Revenue Service and the Department of Justice exert intimidation by and the power of an ever-expanding police network to enforce and prosecute offenses of the so-called tax laws. Yet they refuse to cite the specific legal authority that purportedly allows them to enforce these laws. The nature of our resistance is clear. It is not an act of anarchy or rebellion. Rather, it is an act of resistance to a government that is violating the purposes for which the Creator, through the people and the Constitution, has ordained civil government. We are not anti-government. We are not anti-war. We are not anti-tax. We are not anti-enforcement. We are pro-Constitution and anti-fraud.
Amen.
Amen.
We are pursuing peaceful reconciliation and petition it is the President. Reconciliation and petition. It is the President, the Congress, and the courts who have refused to respond to our petitions.
That's right.
For redress of our grievances.
Good try.
In violation of our First Amendment rights, and who continue to violate and undermine the supreme law of our land.
Yes, they do.
We have no desire for resistance or violence of any kind. However, in the people's peaceful attempts to have answers, the people's petitions and appeals have been met with force, and in some instances with near military force. The defense of our homes, our families, properties, and possessions is a most important point to us, and it is our heritage. It is our right.